or Ms. Fitzpatrick. Please just identify yourself for the record.
My name is Patty Tanji. I'm the president of Pay Equity Coalition. I'm also president of Minnesota Businesswomen.
Could you move your mic closer?
Oh, absolutely. Sit closer to. Chair Mua and members of the Judiciary Committee, I'd like to mention to you that I find this a very high honor and privilege to be here with you today, and I thank you all for your commitment to the citizens of the state of Minnesota. The Pay Equity Coalition was formed in the early 1980s to help educate the public about the notion of comparable worth or equal pay for jobs of equal worth, and to help get our two pay equity laws passed in this state. The coalition consists of about 60 individuals and women's groups and unions that are all passionate about the issue of fair pay. The coalition's role today is to monitor current laws and any attempts to weaken the statute, and to advise state and local governments around the country on what we're doing here in Minnesota, and to help others like us implement these similar laws in their states and local governments. The Minnesota pay equity laws are held as models for pay equity around the country. Other states have followed suit to some degree or another. As a result of the success of the laws that have the gender gap has virtually been eliminated for state employees here in the state of Minnesota, for that we thank our legislators. In 1982, the state passed the State Government Pay Equity Act, and in 1984, the Local Government Pay Equity Act, and they're a little bit different. The legislation was designed to eliminate sex-based wage disparities in public employment in this state, and more specifically, to establish equitable compensation relationships, which means the compensation for female-dominated job classes is not consistently below the compensation for male-dominated job classes of comparable work value. These laws have eliminated the gender-based wage gap between full-time year-round workers in state government and according to the Minnesota Management and Budget. But because we don't collect the same data for local governments, we do not know the effect of these laws in local governments. Each local government is examined separately. Wages from one local government are not compared to wages of another, and so we don't know the median wage for all men and women working for local governments. But we do know that after job and pay analysis is done every 3 years for each local government, who even after 26 years that the law has been in place, the pay practices continue to show patterns of paying women less for jobs that they themselves, the local governments, have determined are of similar value. According to the January 2010 report from Minnesota Management and Budget, some of the female-dominated jobs that received pay increases as a result of the pay analysis by our work here are accounting clerk, administrative assistant, city clerk, treasurer, executive assistant, secretary, and utility billing clerk. These jobs all fall within the same categories that Amy mentioned earlier as prevalent female occupations. Bias in wage setting is still very much practiced throughout the country in the public and private sector. A study released as early as December 2009 by some researchers at Stanford University and the University of Pennsylvania. They looked at occupations over 50 years from 1950 to 2000 and concluded that a 10% increase in the proportion of females in an occupation associates with a 5% decrease in an hourly wage for each decade. The study was controlled by education and skill. So we at the Pay Equity Coalition understand that today, even in the state of Minnesota, we have a wage gap of 21 cents, but we are making progress. We believe that an amendment for equality will help create a foundation for putting to rest some of the underlying assumptions about pay and the undervaluing work that women perform. Thank you.